Hi everyone, it's Michelle here today. I have a special video for you using a Pink and Main stamp set. Today is my last day on their design team, so I thought I would do something special as a thank you for what an awesome time it's been. So I'm making this card that you see on screen here that has some masked candles that aren't stamped at all. You just have to make a really simple mask, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So first of all, I'll just pull out the stamp set, which is called Birthday Wishes. It has a bunch of awesome happy birthday sentiments that are great to use on all your cards, and today I was inspired by the one that says so many candles, so I'm going to be making my own masked inked candles. So what I did was I just took a regular post-it note here, and I'm cutting a small rectangle that's about the shape of a candle, and I'm doing this on the sticky side of the post-it note, and this is going to be a mask that I'm going to be using to ink up all my candles. And this doesn't have to be perfect or precise. I really just eyeballed it to kind of get the approximate size just so I could fit a few of these onto a card. And I'm just drawing some guides right now for myself so that I can make sure that I have my candle all centered up. I'm going to be starting from the middle and then working out to the sides because this way I can make sure that it's even. At this point I wasn't sure if I was going to do 3 or 5 candles, but I really just figured it out as I went along to see what would fit. So as you can see, I just laid this down, and since I use the sticky side of the post-it, it works perfectly as a mask. And I inked this up in Salty Ocean Distress ink. And before I move on to the next color, I just took a piece of scrap paper and made sure none of the blue ink came off so that it wouldn't contaminate and spread some blue ink into my next color. And it seemed to work okay, so I just went on to the next color, which was Spiced Marmalade. You'll see as I'm doing this, I kind of use the post-it to line up the next candle. I just use that little strip on the edge to make sure the spacing's all right. And again, like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as it looks okay to you, it should be fine. So I moved on to the next color, which was Scattered Straw. This kind of wasn't as bright a yellow as I wanted. It was more of like an orangey yellow, but it turned out okay. And the next one is Seedless Preserves. I'm kind of trying to alternate my cool and warm colors. So you'll see I have green, orange, blue, yellow, purple. So just so that I can mix up the colors a little bit. And after I finished up all that inking, I erased all my pencil lines. And by the way, the green color I used was Mauve Lawn. But you can really just use whatever colors you like, and you can also do all of them the same color if you want a more monochromatic look. After all those candles were inked up to make them look more like candles, I just drew on some really quick white stripes with a white gel pen. This is a Uniball Signo Broad gel pen. And I'm just alternating the way that the diagonals fall on these candles just to make it a little more interesting. So they're already starting to look a little more like candles, but I of course wanted to add some flames to them, so I just took a scrap piece of yellow cardstock and drew a really simple flame shape. And I'm just going to be free cutting these. I just drew the first one to make sure the size was okay, but then for the rest of them I'm just freehand cutting. Some are going to be a little smaller than others, but I actually kind of like this because you'll see the way I organize it. I put the biggest flame towards the center and kind of made them go smaller towards the edges, so I just thought that was a fun way to play off the different sizes and the imperfections of it. And it was looking a little bit flat because it was just this one yellow color, so I inked up the edges with that Scattered Straw ink that I used for one of the candles. And I'm just going along the edges just to give these flames a little more dimension so they don't look like you just cut them out of pieces of paper, but they look more realistic. So then after I quickly inked those up, I can attach these to the card. I'm using Glossy Accents here as a liquid adhesive. It is a very strong liquid adhesive, but mostly the reason I'm using this is because I'm going to be using it on later on in the card, so I already had it out. You can use any other liquid adhesive that you want, or even a tape runner if you can manage to get it onto these small pieces, okay? It's really just up to you. So I just put a little dot above each of the candles and then kind of just like slide the flame into that little dot of adhesive, and this is super strong so it'll stay in place really well. Then I went over the flames with a Wink of Stella clear pen, and this just adds a little bit of glitter, which I think is fun, And I also went over the candles. I was kind of afraid of bleeding of the white gel pen, so you'll see I start kind of just going diagonal in the spaces where I didn't have gel pen. So trying not to go over the white parts, but it didn't seem to bleed too much, so you can just use your own discretion for that. And after that, I wanted to heat emboss the sentiment. And like I said before, I was inspired by the sentiment that says so many candles. So I just put some of my anti-static powder down just so that this will heat emboss really nicely. And I'm going to be stamping this stamp in Versamark ink. And I'm going to be covering this up with super fine gold embossing powder by Ranger. And I wanted to use this gold color to bring out the warm tones in the candles and the flames. And then after I stamped that sentiment, I decided that I also wanted to kind of add some interest around the edges of the paper. So I took my Versamark ink pad and I kind of just swiped it along the edges of this piece of cardstock. And this will make the embossing powder stick to the edges just a tiny little bit, just so you have this little frame. And again, this is going to be a little imperfect because it's not stamped or anything. You're kind of just swiping it on the edges. But I kind of like the look of this. It's a little more fun and free. So I just went ahead and covered up all the edges one by one. I made sure to only do one edge at a time because I was afraid it might stick to the ink on the candles if I had tried to pour the embossing powder off that way. So I just went ahead and heat set that off camera, and you can see how the edges are a little imperfect, but it's really fun. So now I am going to get started on my card base because I'm almost done with the front of the card. I have some craft cardstock. This is Nina Desert Storm, and I really like it because it's kind of a lighter craft, which I think is really nice. It's not too overpowering. Sometimes craft cardstocks are a little too brown for me, but I really like this one. So I just scored it at 5.5 inches, and this makes a top folding card base. And when I use craft cardstock, I like to bring in something else that's the same like natural tone. So I brought in this May Arts twine, and I'm just going to tie a really simple bow above that sentiment. And I kind of had the idea that I would want to do this, so that's why I left a little room when I was stamping that. So again, just a really simple bow, and it was kind of fidgeting, so I went ahead and took my glossy accents out and put a little dot of that under just the center of the bow, just to make sure it would stay in place. And then I took my glossy accents and I decided I was going to cover up my flames and the entire candles on the front of the card, which is kind of a lot, but I thought it would be really fun and give this card a lot of dimension and shine, and it really did in the end. So I got started on that, but then I realized it would probably be easier for me to adhere this all down first, because glossy accents does take a long time to dry, especially if you're using as much as I am here. So I just made sure to adhere that and not press down on what I had already put down. So I'm just going really quickly here. These are easy shapes, so it's not too hard. You just want to be careful with the white gel pen. Again, I was afraid of it bleeding, and this time I kind of did see it start to bleed, especially on the blue one. You can see how it's a little muddy. In the end, it looked okay, but you just want to be a little cautious when you're doing that. So I just covered up the entire thing. You can see how it's really shiny now, and right now it's not so clear, but once it dries, it'll be completely clear and look really awesome and waxy like real candles. And to finish this off, I pulled off a little sticker that says Make a Wish from this freckled fawn sticker sheet, which I thought went perfectly with this, and it matched with the blue candle. So I just went ahead and stuck that on, and my card was done. So here you can see some finished pictures of the candles and how shiny and awesome they look. And they're really 3D, so this really makes this card pop. So I really hope you liked this tutorial. Like I said, this is going to be my last post for Pink and Main. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to keep up with me by subscribing to my YouTube channel where I have more videos every so often. And you can also find me on Instagram and Pinterest. My usernames are up on the screen. And you can head over to my blog as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.